two leading Israeli human rights groups are now accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza amid the hunger crisis there. This comes as France, Germany, and Spain are now preparing to send humanitarian aid to Gaza. Israel says it has dropped 52 aid packages today in coordination with Arab nations. With us now is Israel's ambassador to the United States, Yechiel Leiter. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. I know how busy you are. President Trump is breaking openly with Prime Minister Netanyahu, acknowledging, and I'm quoting him now, that there is real starvation in Gaza. Right now, this is what Trump has said. Listen to their very different messages. Listen to this.
There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
Some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it, and you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved.
Ambassador, is the Israeli government willing to admit that there is deepening hunger, a crisis, starvation potentially in Gaza?
Nobody could avoid seeing the pictures we're seeing coming out of Gaza, although many of them are in the service of Hamas propaganda, and some of them are doctored in AI. But there is definitely a crisis in Gaza. The question is, who's responsible for it? We are not preventing aid from entering Gaza. We never have, we never will. We don't want to see people hungry. And that's what the Prime Minister was referring to. Not only is there not a policy of starvation, but actually the amount of food that's being sent into Gaza is more than enough to feed all the Gazan populations. The problem is, Wolf, that it's getting into the hands of Hamas. And Hamas distributes the food in accordance with its political will. Those who serve Hamas get fed. Those who are fighting Hamas don't get fed. So obviously those who are opposed to Hamas are not getting the food, and that's where we're seeing these horrible pictures of people being hungry. That has to be solved. I mean, we have to share the pain together, but we have to be careful about where we're pointing the blame. And the blame is not on Israel, the blame is on Hamas.
But is there starvation in Gaza right now, as President Trump is saying, and as Prime Minister Netanyahu is denying?
I think what the president was referring to was the pictures of hunger. There is no large-scale starvation. There's a starvation. There certainly isn't a policy of starvation. I think there's a lot of confusion on that issue. I mean, the president was actually expressing his heart, and he's got a very big heart, and he sees pictures of people hungry. We feel the same way. The Prime Minister feels the same way, and that's why he's taken every decision possible to have food flood into Gaza. As a matter of fact, right now as we speak, there's 636 trucks, semi-trailers, waiting to enter Gaza, and the UN agencies are not picking them up because of their argument with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And by the way, the pictures we're seeing are from northern Gaza, where GHF is not yet operating. But in the areas of southern Gaza, where GHF is operating in full with 4 distribution sites, we don't see the pictures of hunger. So I think it's very important that we appeal to the UN agencies and say, look, stop this, argument with the GHF. They are not allowing humanitarian aid to be diverted to Hamas. Work alongside of them, and we'll get beyond this. But look, anybody who wants to leave Gaza can leave through Israel. They just need a country to absorb them. I mean, if France, for example, would be less concerned about creating, a political capital through declaring a Palestinian state, let them take some refugees in from Gaza. Be a little bit more productive. Some other European countries as well. They're too preoccupied with condemning Israel. And the outcome of what they're doing right now in New York would be declaring October 7th a Palestinian Independence Day.
Ambassador.
Look, Hamas started this war, and Hamas could end the war right now. Let our hostages go. Let the people of Gaza go. They're holding the people of Gaza hostage as well.
The people in Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, Ambassador, they don't want to leave Gaza. This is their homeland. They want to stay there if at all possible. And I just want to point out that not one but 2 Israeli human rights groups, B'Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights Israel, are now calling what's happening in Gaza, and I'm quoting them now, a genocide. And as you know, Ambassador,
Yeah.
that's a very, very sensitive word for Israel and for Jews worldwide because of the horrors of the Holocaust. How do you respond to that, these two Israeli human rights groups alleging that Israel is committing genocide?
Well, those two groups are comparable to the American Communist Party declaring the Trump administration guilty of war crimes. They're on the far, far left, the extreme left. They're affiliated with anti-Israel organizations around the world. And we absolutely condemn these reports, which are fallacious. Anybody is welcome to come and see the amount of aid that we're pouring into Gaza. And again, I want to reiterate what you said about the people wanting to leave Gaza. Anybody who wants to stay is welcome to stay. But why keep them in a siege and condemn Israel for making a siege? We don't have a siege. 39,000, by the way, have left since the beginning of the war through Israel, not through Egypt or anybody else. 39,000 through Israel. And there are hundreds leaving every week if they have a visa to enter another country. And if they want to leave temporarily to get out of this mess that Hamas has imposed on them, we're going to facilitate that. The same way we facilitate aid coming in, we're going to facilitate those who want to leave out. But stop. I appeal to the international community, to the media. I mean, look, there have been pictures that have been broadcast, even on CNN. I got to say this, excuse me, but even on CNN, pictures of children who are suffering from cerebral palsy or cystic fibrosis, not from hunger. And yet we're condemned for it. This has a long history of pointing the finger at the Jewish state and really has to stop.
Yeah, but you heard the President of the United States, President Trump, say there's no doubt that there is starvation unfolding right now in Gaza. And as you know, Ambassador, because you're based here in Washington, as we all know, many of Israel's strongest supporters, traditionally very strong supporters here in the United States, are demanding that Israel expand humanitarian aid and supplies to the people in Gaza. Today, the Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish leader in Congress, and dozens of his colleagues, more than 40 Democratic senators, sent a letter to Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling for more aid. Yesterday, I spoke with the former Obama White House Chief of Staff, Rahm Emanuel, has a long history of being very supportive of Israel, and he was extremely critical of what your government in Jerusalem is now doing. Listen to what he said.
Prime Minister Netanyahu's strategy is bankrupt. And the fact is, he just the other day said that just yesterday, he said there's no hunger or starvation in Gaza, and yet you have reports of children dying from starvation by international organizations, not Hamas-related organizations. The idea that you're calling Israeli soldiers up on the third or fourth tour of duty to shoot at hungry people trying to get food shows you how bankrupt this entire policy is. And the fact is, there's no plan for this. It has nothing to do with Israel's security.
Ambassador, is Israel at risk right now of losing major support from very long-time allies as this crisis unfolds?
I want to say this. I'm absolutely shocked at what Rahm Emanuel said. What he said and what he's accusing us of is bankrupt. We're not sending soldiers to shoot at people, hungry people in Gaza. I mean, where does he get this contorted idea from? We are actually protecting our civilians and protecting Gazans, for crying out loud, who are coming to food distribution sites to get food. It's the Hamas that's shooting at them. He has a moral problem. He can't see between good and evil. Hamas is shooting at their own people. They're keeping people hostage. Please understand that, Rahm Emanuel. Get it through your head. We're not the guilty party here. We're not only fighting for our survival, fighting against the ghoulish enemy that slaughtered our civilians, okay? We're also trying to get our hostages out. Why is there no message from Rahm Emanuel about our hostages? Nothing in that statement. Okay, nothing about the people of Gaza, for crying out loud, being held hostage by Hamas. There's more and more evidence coming out that the people of Gaza are opposing the Hamas tyranny that rules over them. So again, there's 636 trucks waiting to be picked up. What would Senator Schumer like us to do? Should perhaps we'll go together. I mean, myself and Senator Schumer, we can get on a plane, get into those trucks and drive them into Gaza. We've opened up humanitarian corridors. We've cooperated with the Emiratis and the Egyptians. The Emiratis are doing an incredible job with their field hospital, with parachuting aid in. We're parachuting aid in. We've opened up these corridors. And now we call on the various UN affiliates. For crying out loud, stop your petty games, fighting with GHF, come and pick up the trucks. And let's talk again tomorrow, Wolf, when 636 trucks are brought in that are waiting now at the intersection.
As you know, Ambassador,
I would refer you. I got to say one more thing, please. I would refer you and the good Rahm Emanuel. I would refer you to the UN website itself, which says that in the month of June, 2,134 trucks were sent into Gaza. Only 260 arrived at their destination. That means 90% was diverted by Hamas. Now, you want to blame us for that too? I mean, for crying out loud, you want to blame us for conducting a war while we're providing as much humanitarian aid as possible. Hamas is using this propaganda to score points in the international community, and like a social contagion, everybody is picking this up. Israel is starving a population. We are not starving a population. We will never starve a population. We will continue to flood Gaza with humanitarian aid as we conduct the war to destroy Hamas, period.
But having said all that, Ambassador, I just want to point out that support for Israel among Americans is declining big time right now. Our most recent polls and other polls show more Americans are now actually sympathizing with the Palestinians than sympathizing with Israel. And they say that that the support for Israel has declined dramatically, especially since the October 7th Hamas massacre in Israel. I've covered U.S.-Israeli relations, as you know, Ambassador, for a long time. I don't remember a time when support for Israel has evaporated like this. It's really a major problem in U.S.-Israeli relations. What are you going to do about that? Because especially younger Americans are increasingly anti-Israel as opposed to what has been the tradition over many, many years.
Wolf, look, I know how long you've been covering Israel-American relations. I know you were stationed in Israel for a long time. I remember incidents throughout history where there was a dramatic dip in support, and we were able to stage a comeback. I mean, you remember, for example, the picture of the baby without arms in Beirut in 1982, which caused President Reagan to pick up the phone and demand from Prime Minister Begin to end the war, and it turned out 2 weeks later that the baby had arms. It was a completely fictitious doctored picture. We're going to get beyond this. The people of America identify with the values that we identify with. We have interests together, and we have a long history of partnership. You saw the partnership come to play recently in our battle together against Iran, which is really, at the end of the day, responsible for all of this, having supported Hamas to the tune of $350 million a year. Iran was responsible. We acted together with the United States. We will continue to act together with the United States. And I can tell you, Wolf, that as ambassador, I'm working 24/7 on a bipartisan level. I've spoken to many of my colleagues in Congress on the Democratic side of the aisle as well. I'm constantly informing them of the facts on the ground. I hope and pray that people become a little bit more level-headed about what's going on, place less emphasis on propagandizing pictures coming across through the media. Look at the facts. Look at the 636 trucks sitting there as we speak. How much more can we send into Gaza? We're sending it in. We can't distribute the food. It's the UN that's supposed to be distributing the food. If it's not getting there, then it's the UN that's responsible for cooperating in tandem with Hamas. So we're going to do what we have to do. We may take some criticism for a while. We're going to get beyond this. And the relations between the United States and Israel are going to be rock solid as they've been since Israel was created in 1948.
Ambassador Yechiel Leiter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.